Orders of the day. I recognize the Government House Leader.
Leader parlementaire
Mr. Speaker,
du gouvernement,
Government
Monsieur le Président.
Notice of motion number 34.
De motion numéro 34
Government
du
notice of
gouvernement.
motion number 34, Mr. Fedeli.
Monsieur Fedeli.
Speaker, I
Monsieur le Président, je propose, appuyé par Monsieur Ford, que cette Chambre approuve de manière générale les politiques budgétaires du gouvernement.
Monsieur Fedeli
a proposé, appuyé par M. Ford, que cette Assemblée approuve de manière générale les politiques budgétaires de ce gouvernement. Je vais demander une chance de la Chambre, alors que les pages distribuent le discours du budget et le budget.
I'm pleased to announce that our pages have achieved a new record in the delivery of the budget documents to the members of this chamber. Have all of the members received their budget documents? Recognize the Minister of Finance.
Monsieur le Président,
Mr. Speaker,
far too many guests to recognize in the galleries today. Friends, family, elected officials, mayors, chiefs, councillors, former MPPs, former Premier. Sit up straight, Mike, your dad's here. I'll mention one person by name. My wife Patty is here from our hometown in Corbeil. Our friends who are here, all of our friends, they just call her Miss P. So let me thank Miss P for being here today and for the love and support she has shown me and shared with our family for 33 years. Monsieur le Président, Mr. Speaker, today we are presenting the first budget of our government's mandate, a plan for the people, by the people, and most importantly, a plan that puts the people first. Under the leadership of Premier Doug Ford, our government has started down a path to balance so that we can protect what matters most, our vital services such as health care and education. We are working smarter, spending smarter, and reinventing the way government serves the people. And we are taking steps to attract business, create jobs, and provide opportunities for our emerging engineers, nurses, and tradespeople. Our government's approach is both thoughtful and measured, and is built on a foundation of 4 clear priorities. First, we are restoring accountability and trust by introducing a credible, sustainable, and fully costed plan that will return the province to fiscal balance. In fact, our plan is projected to generate savings and cost avoidance of about 8 cents for every dollar spent. Second, we are protecting what matters most by adopting bold new ways to deliver world-class services such as health care and education while supporting our frontline workers. Third, we are putting people first by making life more affordable and convenient with our new child care tax credit, flexible auto insurance plan, expanded rapid transit system, and a reduced estate administration tax. And fourth, we are making Ontario open for business and open for jobs, lowering business costs and making it easier for employers to hire workers and for workers to find a job. Our government stands firmly on the side of hard-working taxpayers. That's why Budget 2019 contains no new tax increases. Not one. Mr. Speaker, this budget builds on the incredible work of our Cabinet and our caucus, the work that they've been doing since taking office. In 9 short months, our government has achieved hundreds of initiatives for the benefit of individuals, families and businesses, such as cancelling the cap-and-trade carbon tax, introducing our low-income individual and family tax credit, cutting corporate income taxes through the Ontario Job Creation Investment Incentive, building new schools in high-growth areas, adding new long-term beds, more hospital beds, and repairs and upgrades to dozens of hospitals throughout Ontario. We have made tremendous progress, but there is much more to do. And to be blunt, the challenge before us is daunting. Mr. Speaker, nobody should underestimate the mess we inherited. When the Independent Financial Commission completed its review of Ontario's books, one thing became abundantly clear. The cupboards were not only bare, the fiscal house was collapsing under the weight of the massive debt and deficit. Speaker, the previous government was spending $40 million a day more than they took in. Shame. Under their watch, the deficit grew to $15 billion and the debt ballooned to more than $1/3 of $1 trillion. In fact, interest on debt is the 4th largest line item in the budget after health care, education and social services. Speaker, Ontario deserves better, and on June 7th, the people of Ontario voted for something better, Premier Doug Ford and his plan for the people. Mr. Speaker, restoring trust, accountability and transparency is foundational to our plans to build a fiscally sustainable government and protect and enhance the services we all cherish. The fact is, our government is increasing year-over-year investments in both health care and education. But we cannot kid ourselves. The challenges of an aging population and older schools are real and will require even further investment. Given the fiscal mess we inherited, do we really think health care will be there for our kids if we continue to run endless deficits? Do we really think our public education system will flourish when the government continues to pile on more and more debt? The answer to both questions is a resounding no. That's why, Speaker, balancing the budget is a critical first step to protecting our core services. Balancing the budget requires discipline, determination, and an appetite to take a different approach to government, to modernize, digitize, make our services and programs more efficient, all while protecting frontline workers. That is the path that our government has chosen. And, Speaker, we have created a fully costed and sustainable plan that will take us to balance in 5 years. This is both reasonable and responsible. Nous allons balancer le budget en 5 ans.
We will balance the budget in 5 years.
Short time we've been in office, the deficit has been reduced by $3.3 billion to $11.7 billion for this past fiscal year, and our government is projecting to further reduce the deficit by nearly $1.5 billion over the next year, lowering the deficit to $10.3 billion. Le déficit a été réduit à 11,7 milliards de dollars.
The deficit has been reduced by $3.3 billion to an estimated $11.7 billion for this past fiscal year, and lowering it to $10.3 billion this year.
Determination is absolute. We will return Ontario to a balanced budget on the schedule that we are setting out here today. Speaker, at the same time, we know that talk is cheap. That is why we are backing up this commitment with an ironclad guarantee that will change the culture of government. As part of the budget legislation, our government is proposing a new, robust accountability framework called the Fiscal Sustainability, Transparency and Accounting Act. This represents the first comprehensive change to Ontario's fiscal planning legislation in 15 years. In addition, the proposed act would require governments to deliver their budget by March 31st. And perhaps more importantly, the act will include an accountability guarantee for both the Premier and the Minister of Finance. They will each be required to pay a fine equal to 10% of their Premier and ministerial salaries for each missed reporting deadline. Sorry I didn't tell you about that one earlier, Premier. We are quite literally putting our money where our mouth is. Mr. Speaker, while it's important to slay the deficit, it is equally important to face the mountain of debt. Ontario has the largest subnational debt on the planet. Over the past decade, the previous government allowed the debt to double to $343 billion, or about $24,000 for every man, woman and child in our province. Interest payments on this debt are more than the entire budgets of most Ontario ministries and is currently forecast to be $13.3 billion this year. Every dollar that goes into interest is a dollar that can't go to a home care worker, fix another school, or reduce taxes. Every single day, the people of Ontario pay for the excesses of the past in a very real and very painful way. This grave situation needs to be addressed. So, Speaker, we will direct any unused money from the reserve and the contingency fund, as well as any unspent dollars at the end of the year, into debt reduction. Our budget has also put an end to the so-called March Madness. Sadly, we're not talking about basketball here, but instead referring to the annual habit of year-end spending sprees that go throughout government and all agencies. This is fundamentally disrespectful to the taxpayer, and on behalf of the Premier, we're pleased to report that it's done, it's gone. Mr. Speaker, balancing the budget will be an all-of-government effort. We are looking at every program, every agency, every board, every commission to drive efficiencies, find cost savings, and enable the transformation and modernization of government services. We are also reviewing our capital investments and putting them at a level that is more sustainable. During the provincial election, Premier Ford promised to find savings of 4 cents on every dollar. To date, our government has nearly doubled that and found about 8 cents on every dollar spent. Over the next 6 years, this will enable our government to provide $26 billion in much-needed relief to families, individuals, students, seniors, and businesses. All this, Speaker, while protecting frontline jobs. And leading this complex, multi-year planning process is our colleague, Peter Bethlenfalvy, President of the Treasury Board. His efforts have already resulted in substantial savings and cost avoidance. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, members of the opposition are quick to grandstand whenever we talk about balancing the budget. If we discontinue a program because it's well past its best before date, they scream from the hilltops and declare it a cut. Speaker, that is a reaction that is as predictable as it is irresponsible, because the basic math is irrefutable. It is only by returning to fiscal balance that we can continue to invest in critical programs like health care and education and other services that the people of Ontario have come to rely on. Balancing the budget is not just some random goal. It is both a fiscal and a moral imperative that is in the public's interest. Balancing the budget, Speaker, is how we protect the things that matter most. Mr. Speaker, ask any parent and they will tell you that one of the things that matters most to them is childcare. The previous administration took an outdated and rigid government knows best approach. Well, we disagree. Why don't we let parents decide what childcare options work best for them? That's why our government is proposing a new Ontario Childcare Access and Relief from Expenses, or thankfully, CARE tax credit for short. This new CARE tax credit would provide about 300,000 families with up to 75% of their eligible expenses for childcare centres, home-based care, camps, and other settings. The CARE tax credit would be one of the most flexible childcare initiatives ever introduced in Ontario, putting parents at the centre of the decision-making process, not bureaucrats and politicians. In addition, Speaker, our government will be providing $1 billion over the next 5 years to create 30,000 child care spaces in schools. These centres could be operated by not-for-profit or for-profit groups and will offer children a safe learning environment and the opportunity to grow in a familiar setting. Mr. Speaker, our government believes that it's time patients are put at the centre of health care. For too long, previous governments have been pouring massive amounts of money into a system that is siloed, fragmented, and extremely complicated to navigate. It has led to longer wait times and hallway health care. We will put the patients first by moving towards an integrated delivery model and establishing Ontario Health Teams. These Ontario Health Teams will organize care delivery according to the needs in their local communities, ensuring that patients come first and the precious dollars are redirected to frontline services. Our government will reduce the bloated healthcare bureaucracy and tear down the administrative silos by consolidating the 6 existing provincial health agencies and the 14 local health integration networks into a new single agency. We will also be providing $17 billion in capital grants over the next decade to modernize and increase capacity at our hospitals. To support our aging seniors, our government is well on its way to creating 15,000 new long-term care beds. We are also committed to upgrading an additional 15,000 long-term care beds to modern design standards. This initiative would represent an investment of $1 $2.75 billion over 5 years. Speaker, at least two-thirds of low-income seniors do not have access to dental insurance. Untreated oral health represents a significant burden on the health system and contributes to hospital overcrowding. That is why our government is investing $90 million to establish a new dental program for seniors. The mental health and addiction systems in Ontario has been challenged for too long. That's why our government is flowing $3.8 billion over 10 years to support acute mental health inpatient beds, community health and justice services, and supportive housing. Under the leadership of Deputy Premier and Minister of Health and Long-Term Care, Christine Elliott, we are confident that the healthcare system will continue to prove for the benefit of all individuals and families. We also applaud the Minister of Seniors and Accessibility, Raymond Cho, for his work with some of our most vulnerable citizens. Mr. Speaker, the future of our province, in many ways, is tied to the education system. This is the training ground for our next generation of leaders, our scientists and engineers, our plumbers and our electricians. Unfortunately, the previous government failed our children when it came to teaching the basics. This lack of foundational knowledge has left too many of our kids ill-prepared for the challenges of the modern world. Our math scores have declined over the past 10 years, as many students have struggled to meet the minimum provincial standard. Speaker, our approach will be different. We are getting back to basics, respecting parents, and working with teachers to ensure our kids develop the skills they need to succeed in a highly competitive market. Our government held the largest education public consultation in Ontario history. This feedback helped develop our new, comprehensive plan entitled Education That Works for You. Our plan includes reforms such as a new math curriculum that will focus on math fundamentals for all grades, a renewed focus on science, technology and engineering, along with a new focus on skilled trades and financial literacy. We are also introducing a modern, age-appropriate health and physical education curriculum that will keep our students safe. To ensure that the rights of parents are respected and their voices heard, our government will begin drafting a Ministry of Education Parents' Bill of Rights. Ontario will be the first province in Canada with a dedicated Parents' Bill of Rights. While we take steps to help move Ontario students to the head of a class, our opponents are quick to question our financial commitment to education. Let me be perfectly clear. Our government will increase funding to the education sector by $1 billion over the next 3 years to more than $30 billion. And we are investing $13 billion in capital over 10 years, including $1.4 billion this year alone. We are making substantial investments in our children, in our future. We have taken great care to build a sustainable education plan where no teacher is being fired, despite what our opponents often claim. Our hope and expectation is that our partners in Ontario's teachers' unions will join us in this incredibly important journey. Leading those reforms is Education Minister Lisa Thompson. We believe the work she is doing will enable our students to find good, career-oriented jobs in the modern global economy. Good job. Mr. Speaker, the students of today are the workforce of tomorrow. To help them succeed, our government is making a college or university education more affordable. For the first time in Ontario's history, the government is reducing student tuition, saving parents and families about $450 million every year. We are also reforming the Ontario Student Assistance Program by putting it on a sustainable footing and focusing the program on those who need it the most. In fact, starting this September, our government will ensure that 82% of grants will go to students with a family income of less than $50,000. That's up from 76% under the previous government. In order to equip more people with skills that are in demand, our government is increasing apprenticeship opportunities and transforming employment and training services in the province. We plan to do this by establishing a new governance framework through proposed legislation to replace the Ontario College of Trades and Apprenticeship Act. Our plan would encourage employer participation in the apprenticeship system through a new financial incentive program. It would also create a new one-window digital portal for apprentices and promote the skilled trades as a pathway choice for younger students. We applaud Minister of Training, Colleges and Universities, Marilee Fullerton, for helping prepare even more people for the world of work. Mr. Speaker, Ontario's employment and training programs were not focused on helping job seekers, including social assistance recipients, find and keep jobs. In order to improve labour market outcomes and reduce the administrative burden in the employment and training system, our government is integrating social assistance employment into Employment Ontario. These reforms will provide wraparound supports to help social assistance recipients address barriers and access to employment. To help people on Ontario Works find employment faster, recipients could earn up to $300 per month without reducing their assistance, and ODSP recipients will get greater flexibility through an annual exemption of $6,000, up from $200 a month today. We applaud Minister of Children, Community and Social Services and Minister responsible for women's issues, Lisa MacLeod, for her passion and determination to protect and support our most vulnerable citizens. Mr. Speaker, protecting innocent, law-abiding citizens is a top priority of our government. One person killed by gun violence is one too many. Regrettably, the numbers of victims has been on the rise. In order to combat gun and gang-related violence, our government is investing $16.4 million over 2 years to create a province-wide community safety strategy. This will include establishing a provincial guns and gang support unit to assist local police officers and prosecutors. This funding is in addition to the $25 million flowing to the City of Toronto over 4 years to help combat guns and gang violence, and the $2 million committed to supporting enforcement initiatives in the City of Ottawa. And through our Comprehensive Police Services Act, we are finally treating our men and women in the police services with the respect they so deserve. We applaud Attorney General and Minister responsible for Francophone Affairs, Caroline Mulroney, and Solicitor General Sylvia Jones for their leadership in this area. Mr. Speaker, the dream of home ownership has been out of reach for many first-time buyers, especially in large urban centres such as Toronto. In order to break down the many barriers for prospective buyers and builders, our government is developing a housing supply action plan. This action plan will make it easier to develop the right mix of housing when it is needed, lower the cost of development, and make it easier to develop rental housing. And we want to ensure that our municipal partners are getting maximum value for every tax dollar they spend as well. That's why our government is providing one-time funding of $200 million to 405 municipalities to help them improve their efficiency. And we applaud the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing, Steve Clark, who has developed an excellent relationship with our many valued municipal and housing partners. Mr. Speaker, to tackle climate change and other environmental challenges, our government has developed a Made in Ontario environmental plan. It affirms our commitment to protect the environment without burdening households and businesses with ineffective policies such as the federal government's job-killing carbon tax. Instead of a punishing carbon tax, our government will establish a $400 million emissions reduction fund to speed up the development of low-carbon solutions and encourage private sector investment in clean technologies. We congratulate the Minister of Environment, Conservation and Parks, Rod Phillips, for his determination to protect our air, our water and our magnificent landscape for future generations. Mr. Speaker, our government is putting people first. Everything we do, every decision we make, every dollar we spend must pass one simple test. Is it good for the people? For too long, government has refused to embrace a customer-first service model because it didn't have to. It was government. But times have changed, and the government has changed too. We are moving the province into the 21st century. We are taking steps to improve consumer choice and convenience and revolutionizing the way we deliver and expand services like transportation. A reliable, efficient and accessible transportation network is critical if we are to drive our economy forward and protect the environment. Our current regional GO Rail network is realizing only a fraction of its potential. That's why we are implementing the largest increase in GO Rail service in 5 years. We are committed to providing two-way, all-day service every 15 minutes in core segments of the network. This includes also additional GO Rail service along the Kitchener line during the morning and afternoon rush hours, as well as year-round weekday GO Rail service to Niagara Falls and St. Catharines. We are committed to building a modern, efficient, rapid transit system. By uploading the TTC subway network to the province, we would be creating a truly integrated regional transit system. This would allow the province to get projects built better, faster and cheaper, which is good news for taxpayers and commuters. Our government is making the single largest capital contribution to new subway builds and extension in Ontario's history. We are committing $11.2 billion of a total cost of $28.5 billion to support 4 rapid transit projects in the GTA, more than doubling the initial commitment we made during the campaign. That's for you. That's you, sir. That's you, sir. That's you, sir. The 4 projects would be an extension of the Eglinton Crosstown Light Rail Transit Project West, the Yonge North Subway Extension, the Scarborough Subway Extension, and a new Ontario subway line, a more functional version of the Downtown Relief Line. Our government is also supporting the Ottawa LRT Stage 2 project and the LRT project in Hamilton. And to keep people moving in the north, our government will continue to review the transportations in this vast part of the province, including the return of passenger rail and enhanced bus service. We are expanding our transit systems, but we are also expanding other vital transportation infrastructure. Our government is making smart investments in provincial highways, roads, bridges, with projects around Kenora, London, Pickering, and Mississauga. These major infrastructure projects are critical to the future growth of our province, and we applaud both Transportation Minister Jeff Urick and Infrastructure Minister Monty McNaughton for both of your leadership on these files. Mr. Speaker, when it comes to driving, it is clear that Ontario's auto insurance system is broken, and drivers deserve better. That's why our government is making transformative changes to the province's auto insurance system. It starts with giving drivers more options when deciding which insurance coverage suits their needs and gives them more control over their rates. We will allow insurance companies to offer drivers discounts and a variety of options not previously available. In addition, we will introduce a driver care card, which will streamline access to care by providing important information that will make the claims process easier to navigate. And we will adopt a care, not cash, default clause to ensure a driver's auto insurance coverage will pay for treatment instead of costly legal fees. It will also provide for an improved early treatment system and a return to the default benefit limit of up to $2 million for those who are catastrophically injured in an accident. Speaker, we extend our appreciation to MPP Doug Downey for the parliamentary assistant to the Minister of Finance for his excellent work on the auto insurance file, and we also thank Milton MPP Parham Gill, whose private member bill on eliminating postal code discrimination would provide an even greater amount of fairness to drivers in Ontario. Mr. Speaker, the cornerstone of putting people first is consumer choice and convenience. That is why our government is taking steps to modernize the way we sell, distribute and consume alcohol in Ontario. Consider this. There are more than 8,000 retail stores in Quebec selling beverage alcohol, but less than 3,000 stores in Ontario. The time for change is long overdue. That's why our government is proceeding with a plan to expand the sale of beer and wine to corner stores, big box stores, and even more grocery stores. In the meantime, we are moving ahead now with several initiatives to enhance consumer choice and convenience. We are creating a tailgating permit for eligible sporting events, introducing legislation permitting municipalities to create alcohol consumption areas such as parks, and extending hours of alcohol service at licensed establishments, allowing them to start at 9 a.m. Mr. Speaker, to make government work better, we are moving forward with a digital-first strategy. To start with, we will digitize Service Ontario's top 10 transactions, which include the issuing of driver's licenses, vehicle permits, and health cards. This will shift approximately 10 million in-person transactions to digital channels, with savings up to $33.5 million in the next 5 years. Our government is also taking steps to make our internal systems more efficient. We recently announced the creation of a central procurement process to dramatically change the way government makes purchases. By employing this bulk buying power, we will be able to save taxpayers as much as $1 billion a year. We have also embarked on an ambitious effort to ensure all government activities reflect and reinforce a renewed brand standard, and that includes a refreshed Trillium. This new visual identity will replace the expensive patchwork of brands that exist all across the government today. And the centrepiece of this initiative will be a new Ontario license plate that sends a clear message that Ontario is a place to grow. We have been clear. We want to drive a new culture throughout Ontario, and this branding will signal that change. Leading this revolutionary change through government is Government and Consumer Services Minister Bill Walker, and we congratulate him on these excellent initiatives. Mr. Speaker, there was a time when Ontario was the engine of Confederation. After a decade and a half of economic mismanagement by the previous government, our engine is sputtering. Ontario has been trailing the national average in growth for most of the past 16 years. But word is quickly spreading that times have changed, that Ontario is once again open for business, open for jobs. Our government has moved quickly to address our fiscal challenges and create a pro-jobs environment. And this includes the passage of Making Ontario Open for Business Act, which, among other things, froze the minimum wage at $14. And we applaud Labour Minister Laurie Scott for her leadership on this important file. Mr. Speaker, for decades, Ontario's economy has benefited from the strength of the auto sector. It supported hundreds of thousands of direct and indirect jobs in communities all across the province. But clearly, the sector continues to change, and change has not always been for the better. Our message to all manufacturers and their union leaders is clear. There is a new government in Ontario. Do not make your decisions based on the failed ideological policies of the last 15 years. We say to them, let's work together to build the kind of competitive environment that will create and keep jobs here in this province. For our part, we have already introduced Driving Prosperity. This is a 10-year plan that sets out a vision for industry, the research and education sectors, all three levels of government, to work together to strengthen this industry. Driving Prosperity is supported by three strategic pillars: competitiveness, innovation, and talent. In addition, our government is supporting the reduction of payroll taxes, peeling away at layers of red tape, and lowering hydro costs. And clearly, Speaker, we are making progress and seeing results, and we applaud the Minister of Economic Development, Job Creation and Trade, Todd Smith, for his leadership and vision on this critically important file. Mr. Speaker, while our government takes deliberate steps to make Ontario open for business and open for jobs, the federal government is taking deliberate steps to make the cost of nearly everything more expensive. On April 1st, Ottawa imposed a job-killing carbon tax on the people of Ontario and 3 other Canadian provinces. Our government considers the carbon tax to be a clear and present threat to the affordability of life's basic necessities. It will also increase costs for automotive manufacturing, transportation, mining and forestry, putting thousands of jobs at risk. The federal government insists on punishing individuals, families, and businesses, despite the fact that Ontario already leads Canada in greenhouse gas reduction targets. We are fighting the carbon tax head-on. We are challenging this tax in court, and we are proposing to introduce the Federal Carbon Tax Transparency Act to ensure consumers are aware that this tax is driving up the price of gasoline all across the province. In addition, we will present a public campaign to educate people about the real cost of the carbon tax while informing people about our Made in Ontario environmental plan. It should be clear to all of us, a carbon tax is not the only way to fight climate change. Mr. Speaker, as a proud Northerner, we know that we have the potential to make an even greater contribution to the cultural and economic success of our province. But many northern communities face unique challenges to growth. Our government is determined to turn this situation around through a number of initiatives, including consultation on a proposed bill to repeal the Far North Act and amend the Public Lands Act in order to proceed with critical projects like the Ring of Fire. The creation of a mining working group to attract major new investments and the development of a forestry strategy to increase wood supply and create jobs. Exploring options to share resource revenue with Indigenous partners and northern communities, creating more opportunities for Indigenous people, and addressing the skilled labour shortage across the north by creating a new Northern Ontario internship program and calling on the federal government to reform the National Occupation Classification Codes, and developing a broadband and cellular strategy to expand access to rural and remote areas of the province that will allow more people to participate and compete in the digital economy. We recognize the Minister of Energy, Northern Development and Mines, and Minister of Indigenous Affairs, Greg Rickford, and the Minister of Natural Resources and Forestry, John Yakubuski, for their leadership on these files. Mr. Speaker, farmers feed cities. This basic truth is critical to the social and economic well-being of the province. Ontario's food manufacturing sector is the largest in Canada, employing hundreds of thousands of people and contributing billions to our economy. Our province is proposing amendments to the Farm Products Payments Act to modernize Ontario's financial protection for farm businesses. And we are exploring options to expand the risk management program to better support farmers and producers in managing risks that are beyond their control. We applaud the Minister of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs, Ernie Hardeman, for his passion and leadership on this file.
Mr. Speaker, our government is taking steps to stimulate job creation within our Francophone communities. That's why we are expanding the scope of the Francophone Community Grants Program to include a focus on economic development. This will allow Francophone businesses, entrepreneurs, and not-for-profit organizations to support initiatives that promote both economic and cultural growth.
Thank you. Mr. Speaker, sports are far more than simply playing games. They help people stay fit and active, learn the value of teamwork and commitment, and get to learn firsthand the benefits of competition. Ontario's rules and regulations for combative sports, such as mixed martial arts, boxing and kickboxing, are out of date. That's why our government is planning to introduce new legislation to make it safer for professional and amateur athletes to participate in combative sports. Mr. Speaker, Ontario's film and television industry generates billions of dollars in revenue and creates tens of thousands of jobs throughout the province. Our government will continue to offer 5 cultural media tax credits. This will encourage film and television, production, computer animation and special effects, interactive digital media, and book publishing. We are committed to streamlining the administration of the tax credits, reducing red tape, and enabling companies to receive their tax credits faster. We acknowledge the Minister of Tourism, Culture and Sport, Michael Tabolo, for his efforts, your efforts, Michael, to advance culture and athletic excellence through the province. Speaker, before closing, we also extend our appreciation to both my personal ministry staff as well as the dedicated public servants in the Ministry of Finance for their fine work in preparing this budget. All of you. Your two favourite words, Mr. Speaker. To conclude, here are a few thoughts about being a provincial representative here at Queen's Park. As we work, for many of us seeing this historic chamber for the first time, as we work in this historic chamber, we are reminded of the tremendous responsibility that rests upon the shoulders of all MPPs. We come from every corner of the province for one reason and one reason only, and that's to represent the people. It is a position of privilege that is earned through the trust and confidence of the many individuals and families who sent us here. Our constituents look to us to make thoughtful but difficult decisions. Our government, all of our members, we are humbled by this responsibility and seized with the task ahead. We know the path will not be easy, but it is absolutely necessary to preserve our quality of life and secure a bright future for generations to come. Today, our government is reminding the world that we are serious about fiscal sustainability, about protecting frontline services, and making Ontario open for business, open for jobs. This budget marks the beginning of a new era in the province of Ontario. It is a plan that will lead us to a place where costs are lower, where tax dollars are respected, where government works for the people by making smart, long-term decisions, reinventing the way government delivers services, and focusing our resources on the individuals and families in greatest need. The province is restoring trust, transparency, and accountability, and is balancing the budget in a reasonable manner. Premier Ford, promise made, promise kept. So proud of you. So proud of you. Thank you for an incredible job.
I recognize the member for Timmins.
Mr. Speaker, I'm asking for the adjournment of the debate.
Adjournment of the debate.
For Timmins.